Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about what went down in the Thornton Township when they had their first caucus to nominate candidates for the head of the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors, the position which our super mayor holds and is of course the one that she makes the majority of her income from. For those of you who don't remember, if you want to do the breakdown of her salary, she makes about $50,000 as the mayor of the village of Dolton, which is what people think her one and only position is, despite the fact that she holds two government positions. However, she makes $225,000 from her position as the head of the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors, making her salary above what the governor of Illinois makes and close to $300,000.
You make almost $300,000 between your two elected positions.
I do not. I don't know where you got that number from.
We got it from her own village and township records.
And she is obviously supposed to be up for re-election. She was never elected to the Thornton Township post. She actually took over somebody else's term. And of course, as we discussed on this channel, she essentially tried to rig the rules in her favor by dropping the salary for somebody else, not named Tiffany A. Henyard, to $25,000 a year as a move in order to maintain this position.
Longtime municipal attorney Bert Odelson says he was stunned when he saw the latest move by controversial Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who also doubles as the mayor of Dolton. 2 weeks ago, the Township Board passed an ordinance that allows Henyard to continue collecting her $224,000 a year salary. But if anyone other than Henyard gets the job, the ordinance resets that salary to $25,000 a year.
But guess what? They did the nomination process anyway, and she lost. And after she lost, she flipped out, and it's absolutely amazing. Now, we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about this. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Us here at Thornton Township, we always had a primary. Always. We never not had a primary where 10,000 residents come out and express who they want.
So right off the top, I just want to point out how rare it is for the super mayor to do a sit-down interview with media that tends to be opposed to her, and you could see, based on the panic of her face, that this woman is scared because what she is saying is that they normally do a primary, they decided to do a caucus instead, and she felt like this was a maneuver in order to deny her the nomination. Now, she had been encouraging her supporters to show up to this meeting, get in there early in order to cheer for her, in order to get her on the ballot. However, her supporters are obviously lacking, and this is due in large part to the fact that she stole these people's taxpayer money, tried to raise their property taxes, and all the various instances of corruption through overspending on travel, personal lavish expenses, her spending money in order to promote herself with giant billboards and flyers.
It's an issue. It's been an issue for some time.
We just look up and we're paying for stuff, and it just makes no sense.
And all of that, and her supporters just did not show up. However, the super mayor did show up, and she was very angry that they had essentially strategized against her in order to prevent her from running for re-election.
Can I ask you a real question? Sure. Is it really worth it? In terms of just everything that you've gone through.
I want to show the youth of today and tomorrow what it looks like to come out of controversy. Yes, y'all done ran my name through the mud and did everything. But guess what? As you pull the third on me, I must grow from it. And I will grow from it because I done went through it, but now I'm going to grow from it.
Now, the super mayor claims that, listen, they dragged her name through the mud, they threw dirt on her, but guess what? Just like a plant, when you throw dirt on her, she's gonna grow from it, she's gonna definitely do a great job, and she's gonna come back, and she's gonna win, despite all the odds, the nomination for the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors, and there is nothing that the local Democratic Party can do in order to boot her off the ballot, which of course was made all the more humorous when the local Democratic Party ended up booting her off the ballot because she didn't win the caucus.
Folks lined up early and in the cold for the Thornton Township Democratic Caucus. Everyone outside and those inside the auditorium were here to vote on who will be the Democratic nominees in the township, including the coveted supervisor position. And Tuesday night's caucus left the current supervisor, Tiffany Henyard, fuming.
You didn't run none of this the right way. Illegal. Napoleon.
So you know things went bad for the supermayor when she shows up at this meeting, claims that her supporters are all outside ready to caucus for her, and she starts proclaiming the proceedings to be illegal. And obviously, this is due to the fact that she ended up getting her ass booted off the ballot, because again, in this particular position for the Thornton Township, nobody voted for her to have the top slot to make all this money, and she has mismanaged it for years. Now, of course, there is backlash over whether or not the caucus system is an appropriate mechanism in order to choose the nominees, and the supermayor, to be fair to her, has a great point there. And no, I'm not just saying that because I want her to hold these two government positions so I can continue to make content based on her, because eventually I want to buy a home, and you guys love the supermayor videos, although I do have those corrupt incentives, let us make no mistake about that. I'm saying it because it has been 30 years since they've done the caucus system in this Thornton Township.
That's Henyard pleading her case to committeeman State Senator Napoleon Harris. As a committeeman, Harris set the rules Tuesday night, the first caucus in Thornton Township in nearly 30 years.
The person who says this seems to be outdated, you say what to that?
People in Thornton Township may be new to caucuses because they haven't had them in a while, but this has been a tradition for many other townships around the state.
And those in this room came out to see if Henyard would get the nomination, an uphill battle for the controversy surrounding her administration. Henyard was not in favor of the caucus.
I will be suing everybody tomorrow. This is illegal.
This is illegal in your favor?
Illegal.
So, of course, as you can see, the supermayor, very angry right there. She says she will be suing everybody tomorrow, everybody getting lawsuits, everybody's gonna feel the wrath of the supermayor. And again, in this particular instance, even though I do think it is technically appropriate to do a caucus in the Thornton Township, this is not uncommon in other townships in Illinois, I think she does have a standard point. You should put this up for a primary vote, and she should lose at the ballot box, in my opinion, especially since that's the way that they've done this essentially for the last 30 years, which is the last time that they had a caucus.
Okay, so let's talk about it. I mean, your concern is you brought people in to free bus.
All the people outside, they let one person in.
And again, I understand you guys might be skeptical of my slight defense of her, because I definitely benefit from the chaos that is engineered by the supermayor, and obviously you guys benefit in terms of entertainment value, but let us not forget that there's about 100,000 people who live under the Thornton Township and 20,000 people who live in the village of Dolton who definitely suffer because of this woman.
Henyard used Thornton Township buses to transport supporters, mostly seniors, yet many of the supporters did not get inside the packed auditorium of 600 people.
This is a process that's been going on way before me, and it's just I'm exercising my rights as a committeeman to hold a caucus.
And it is legal. When it was all said and done, the caucus voted, and Henyard did not get the nomination.
You know, anytime the supermayor has a tiny point, anytime the supermayor has an argument that I can give a fair hearing to, her own actions eventually betray her. This is a woman who has been accused repeatedly of inappropriately spending taxpayer dollars for her own political purposes. And what do we find out when she goes to this meeting, makes a decent argument about how they didn't really do the caucus system for the last 30 years. It seems like they're planning this, and by the way, they've admitted they planned this in order to boot her off the ballot, and that's completely unfair, and therefore she should be able to sue these people over this. We come to find out that the way that she was planning on bringing her supporters in, which are mostly senior citizens who probably are totally at a loss for what is going on, was through Thornton Township taxpayer-funded buses. Again, the woman is accused repeatedly of misappropriating taxpayer funds in large part to support her own political career, and in her own caucus situation, she decides to misappropriate taxpayer funds in order to save her political career. Absurdity on top of absurdity, but can we be surprised at this point in the story, because the supermayor has already shown us exactly who she is numerous times.
Yet listen to who the caucus placed on the ballot.
The Democratic slate that would represent Thornton Township at the April 1st consolidated election reads as follows. For Supervisor, Napoleon Harris.
Henyard left emotional and upset knowing her name will not appear on the April ballot, to the pleasure of many in the room.
I am very happy to see the group of people that showed up to this gymnasium cheer the super mayor leaving in anger, leaving in fury, and I'm 100% in support of that. This is what we wanted to see this whole time. The voters, the actual citizens of the township and the village of Dolton reject the super mayor. And of course, unlike in the village of Dolton that did elect her once, even though they did do a recall election, which ended up getting thrown out by the courts because of a process issue where they voted her out, the Thornton Township never voted for her for this position. So it is good to see the voters speak on this particular issue and speak so fervently. That being said, it's not as clean as I would want it to be. There were some dirty tricks involved in this system, and we gotta call balls and strikes, especially when so much of my own personal income is on the line. And in this case, it is definitely a huge questionable move, in my opinion, to affect AJW's income to such a great degree.
I think it's very unfair that I don't get a chance to make the decision of who I want where.
And who did you want to vote for?
I wanted to vote for Tiffany.
Now we hear from one of Tiffany Henyard's supporters that she obviously looks and sounds like a crazy person, and then we hear from the opposition that says, look, this woman showed up late, and then complained that she wasn't able to get in.
She came late, and then she had an attitude because they couldn't get in.
And I guess we'll have to await the lawsuits to adjudicate whether or not everything was above board with this hearing, but it turns out the only option that is left to her is the write-in campaign. Write-in the super mayor is what she's going for, and some of her supporters, probably people who benefit from her corruption, seem to be on board with that idea.
Henyard can only become a write-in candidate, which her supporters say is not impossible.
I think enough people know her name to write her name in, and I believe we could still win it.
Now, one of the things that I love about this is that the super mayor, before the meeting, despite the fact that they had set this up for her to fail, was taking interviews with the press, saying that they can't beat me, that's why they're afraid to go to the polls. And when she was confronted with the question on whether or not she would get the Democratic nomination and what she would do if she lost the Democratic nomination, she had these words of confidence to tell the public in Thornton Township.
Henyard walked out of the meeting and into a waiting SUV without speaking to us, but here's what she said before the caucus began.
They can't beat me. If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls.
What do you do tonight if you don't get the Democratic Party's nomination?
What do you mean? I will be victorious tonight. You will see. My people are here. They're not going to go nowhere. The show will go on.
Yeah, let's just say that that confidence was not reflected in reality, but obviously the super mayor is going to be filing lawsuits. And now, of course, the veracity of these lawsuits are all going to be down to the technicals, but because of this meeting lasting such a short period of time and them making the decision and the argument that her supporters, which again were bussed in through Thornton Township tax dollars to this event, weren't let inside, maybe she's actually going to have some kind of a legitimate case. Maybe, just maybe, the super mayor is going to win one of these election fraud cases that the evil orange man was unable to win. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments below.
Her allies now figuring out their next steps.
This is the biggest. This is the biggest. This is a fraud.
To fight the result.
This is criminal. I would easily say hundreds of people that were not allowed in to be a part of the process.
Was the super mayor cheated? Was she defrauded? Will you be writing in the super mayor's name if you're in the Thornton Township to make sure, as she promised, the show goes on? Or do you think that this was a good maneuver in order to get an absolute madwoman, a dictator in waiting, somebody who incinerates taxpayer dollars, out of office in the only way that she deserves, which is shady, but nowhere near as shady as this woman has been operating for years? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me in my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor getting booted off the ballot. Till next time.